Congratulations. What am I congratulating you for? Well, that's how I start sermons when I do a wedding, or how I start a sermon when we're celebrating graduates, or how I start a sermon when we're celebrating a great donation or fundraiser. Congratulations. And someone will say to you, you've passed your driving test. They say congratulations. It's what you say when someone has just got a new job. Congratulations. It's what you say when someone had just got a new grandchild. Congratulations. So they didn't really do anything. We say congratulations when you've just achieved something that was well worth doing. You've done something to be proud of. Well done. And actually, that's what the word blessed in Matthew chapter 5 means. It's not the usual words when God blesses someone. It's a word people would use to congratulate each other, only this time it's describing someone that God wants to congratulate. It's the word that means someone is happy. That is truly happy, not just feeling happy. It's the word that we would use to say that someone is approved of, only it's God's approval. You might hear it say as, favored is the one who. It's a word for someone who is really, really fortunate. Only this has nothing to do with luck, but all has to do with God's favor. Father Nicholas King says in his direct translation of the Gospel, having given us a preliminary glimpse at the mission of Jesus and of the enemies of the mission, Matthew now gives us the first impression of Jesus' preaching. In all, the evangelist gives us 5 sermons. 5 sermons in this Gospel, which enables him to gather Jesus' preaching material in one place. This is the kind of thing he used to do, to say. He is telling us, offers us a careful constructed collection of Jesus' sayings. Seeing the crowds, he went up into the mountain, and when he sat down, his disciples came to him, and he opened his mouth and began to teach them, saying, congratulations to the poor in spirit. Theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Congratulations to those who are mourning. They will be consoled. Congratulations to the gentle. They'll inherit the earth. Congratulations to those who are hungry and thirsty for righteousness. They shall be satisfied. Congratulations to the merciful, for they shall be mercied. Congratulations to the pure of heart, for they shall see God. And congratulations to those who create peace. They shall be called children of God. Congratulations to those who are persecuted because of righteousness. Theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And congratulations to you when they reproach you and persecute you and falsely talk all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because your reward in heaven is huge. You see, that's how they persecuted the prophets before you. Matthew starts this greatest of his 5 sermons by making sure that our attention is focused. He really wants us to pay attention. Jesus goes up the mountain, apparently because of the crowds, but it does remind us of Moses, except Moses went up a mountain to receive a law, and Jesus to give a new law. Then we watch as he adopts the teacher position. He sat down. His disciples join him, and then Matthew offers no less than 3 expressions to indicate that Jesus is talking. In case you didn't know it was Jesus talking. He opened his mouth. He began to teach and say. So we know that we're privileged to hear these words. That was intended mainly for the inner group of Jesus' disciples. We're not prepared, however, for the shock that follows usually. The astonishing list of those who are congratulated. The destitute, the sad, the meek, those concerned for justice, the merciful, those who concentrate exclusively on God, those who refuse to go to the road of violence, and those who are persecuted. At first blush, this sounds absurd. Are Christians supposed to be wimps? but on the second reading, or in this case in our third reading, there's a profound wisdom in what Jesus offers. Quite the opposite of the congratulations that people normally offer to one another. So, we know that the blessings or congratulations are bestowing of God's favor, something that is given freely. A beatitude is God's favor poured out. Congratulations poured out. A blessing. The preacher and teacher Fred Craddock reminds us that, quote, of the 44 in the New Testament, the vast majority occur in Matthew and Luke. In the Old Testament, most of the Beatitudes occur in Psalms and wisdom's literature. In the context of Proverbs or other wisdom sayings, Beatitudes can be translated as, happy are those who, or how fortunate are those who. However, it is more appropriate to translate Jesus' words so as to convey God's favorability behavior towards those addressed. And therefore, we'll say congratulations in this translation, or blessed, or favored of God are those who. It conveys the understanding that such favor is both present and future. The language of a blessing is also performative. The pronouncement of a blessing actually conveys the blessing. Certainly the language is not hortatory. I had to look up that word, that is his quote. Which means it's not performative. We ought to be poor in spirit. It's not a command. Let us be meek. It's not a command. We must hunger and thirst for righteousness. It's not a command. It is, blessed are those who. It assumes the action will happen. Many preachers are tempted to urge and push and exhort and implement these qualities. You have to do this. You have to be this way. This is the way God wants us to behave. You must behave this way. It is sometimes more difficult to hear and receive a blessing than attempt to achieve one. Very important then is the recognition that the Beatitudes appear at the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount. Before a single instruction is given, because these aren't instructions. When you behave this way, you're blessed. Before there has been time for obedience or disobedience. If the blessing were only for the deserving, very likely it would have been stated at the end of the sermon. Probably prefaced with the condition clause, if you have done all these things. But appearing at the beginning, they say that God's favor precedes all our endeavors. In fact, all of our efforts at kingdom living are in response to divine grace, motivated by because of, not in order to. In this regard, the Sermon on the Mount begins as the Decalogue begins, with the statement of God's gracious initiative. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the land of the bondage, Exodus. Some Christians' characterization of Judaism forget the words of grace in the Old Testament. In fact, some Christians are so anxious to rush to the Sermon on the Mount's moral and ethical instruction that they ignore the initial word that God's blessing is the context for all our behaviors and relationships. God's blessing is there, waiting for us to receive it. And we receive it when, not if, not in order to receive it, but when we act. This is God's grace poured out upon us before, during, and after we engage in kingdom living. One commentator looks at this as if one were in an art gallery. You see a work of art really huge, and you take it in as a whole thing, and you enjoy it as something unique and beautiful. And in fact, I just did this. I was at the Detroit Institute of Arts looking at the frescoes down by Rivera, and they are huge. They surround the whole room. You're just surrounded by these frescoes. Then you grab the little iPad, and there's 10 little lectures on each part of the painting. You get a closer look. So in the same way, as you step into an art class and an artist, you look more closely at how they painted, what their brushstrokes are, their intimate intentions for each little part of the painting. You know the tiny decisions that make up the whole world. So the way Jesus paints his portrait is he gives us 8 details that we can look at. One problem we have this morning is that it is an incredibly rich portrait. Each detail is picking up strands and themes and verses from the Old Testament. Each detail is challenging and really needs us to spend some time reflecting on it, thinking about it, and asking God to give us greater resemblance to the person in the picture, to the person receiving these blessings, or the people receiving these blessings. Poor in spirit. This person knows that what they have is minuscule and unworthy of God. Before God, all is diminished, and no matter all their good deeds, their wonderful, loving way of being, their works and their prayers, they offer, in spite of all that, in their soul. They know they are but a drop in an ocean of God's love. They are poor in spirit. The person who mourns. This is the person that in spite of joy and living life to the fullest, they are always keenly aware of grief and sorrow in the world around them. They know in their hearts that the world is still being created, and in the unfinished glory there is great sorrow and pain. Though their life may be blessed, there is always a tinge of sorrow as they mourn for the world. Then there are the meek. That's what always gets people. What does it mean to be meek? These are not weak individuals. That's something quite different. The meek are those who patiently listen and pray. Often the prayer is, Lord, let me get out of the way, that thy will be done. They will live into God's will, knowing their will is not their own, for they are walking in the way of the Lord, as opposed to the way of the world. They are meek. Oh, congratulations to the gentle one. The one who approaches life as a sacred, priceless work of art to be admired and loved. It is in their loving and care that they shall inherit the earth. The ones who hunger and thirst for righteousness are an interesting breed. For though they fight the good fight and are always seeking to bring God's kingdom on earth, just as it is in heaven, they will always be hungry and thirsty for more, because we're never quite there yet, are we? With each victory comes 10 more battles. I think we all know 1 or 2 people like this. It starts as a kid bringing a can of food for the food pantry. Before you know it, somewhere in life, they're running a food pantry and looking to make 10 more. Next, God congratulates the merciful. These are the ones whose kindness and generosity are right there for all to see. They offer comfort to others before seeking their own. They believe in the redemption of each and every one, even if the road to redemption is harder for some than others. They always see the possibility of forgiveness and seek to find a way. This is the person who literally visits the sick, the prisoner, the shut-in. This is the person who will give till they have nothing left to give, and then give some more. The pure of heart. Look at them in the public. Look at them at work. Look at them relating to their family at home. Look at their Facebook presentation. Look at them on their knees before God. Cut them open any way you want. It's the same person. No hypocrisy. No double standards. Pure devotion to God, whichever way you look. And then there are those who create peace. Create peace. These are the people who can hear a rumor, innuendo, hear hate speech, and gently and lovingly stop it in its tracks. These are the people who intuitively know how to lead people into sacred conversation and holy listening. In order to find a way to resolve conflict. These are the people who literally work toward the peaceful kingdom. And congratulations to those who are persecuted, to those who do their best, who do their blessed, who do everything right, and yet the world doesn't want to work that way. So many times it seems as if the world around us strives on everything that is opposite of of the Beatitudes. And therefore, the ones who are working towards the kingdom of God are the ones who end up persecuted, hated, threatened. Yet even in the midst of all this, they are congratulated by God. Today's hero is someone who is independent, who can stand on their own 2 feet, who plans responsible for the future, who is more concerned with tolerance than with what is right, who is good fun to have around, who is popular. But Jesus says, blessed are the poor in spirit, congratulations to those who know they have nothing to offer God. Can you imagine a gravestone that says 1924 to 2011, lived a great life but nothing that would impress God? Jesus says, blessed are those who mourn. Can you imagine an obituary that extols someone for the way they literally wept over their shortcomings before God? If only more people were like this, the column read. Jesus says, blessed are the meek. Can you imagine a professional, perhaps a sports person or a politician, a scientist or an author? They are accused by the press of all kinds of scandalous things, both in their private lives and their professional world. Their career ends with a whimper because they refuse to take the paper to court. They won't work to clear their name because they know that God will one day right all the wrongs. And can you imagine the press changing its mind and holding this person up as a role model for their quiet trust in their God? Jesus says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Parents want all kinds of things for their children. A good education, a loving marriage, 2 healthy children, a successful career. How many parents would say that they don't mind if their children achieve none of these things as long as they strive to have a God-like character? As long as my kid is just like God, it's okay. You don't need to do anything else. Live righteously. Get the world to draw its portrait of the person deserving congratulations, of the person who has achieved true happiness and great fortune, and does not look anything like these Beatitudes. It does not look like this portrait that Jesus has painted. The world may like 1 or 2 of the details. The person Jesus draws are the kind of person that the world is inclined to pity rather than admire, which is a sad state that our world is in. God's favor is granted to those whom society regards as ones left behind. The poor in spirit, the meek, the mourners, the merciful, those who seek justice, the pure-hearted, the makers of peace, those who are mistreated for the cause of justice. On these, Jesus pronounces God's congratulations. On these, God identifies in Jesus. To these come the good news of God's interceding grace. What a reversal of values and fortunes. Many things are victims, to be sure, but the Beatitudes deliver them from their victim mentality. Just as there is a difference between being a servant and being servile, so there is a difference between being victimized and regarding oneself as a victim. There are those who, in the face of violence, oppression, and abuse and neglect, continue to turn the other cheek and go the second mile and share their possessions even with their accusers are not victims. They are, in a very real and profound sense, the victors, set free to live by hearing Jesus extend to them the Beatitudes of God. Congratulations. Blessed are you. So, congratulations to you. Yes, each and every one of you. For as you walk the walk of being a Christian, at one time or another, some days more, some days less, we live out these Beatitudes. We do hit the mark. As a community, we shall continue to strive and seek out ways to be worthy of these congratulations. Seek out ways into which to better live into these Beatitudes, that we may help bring into possibility God's kingdom here on earth, just as it is in heaven. Nobody in the world will congratulate you for doing this work except for inside your community of Christ. And so as we step boldly out of these doors later, remember what we are called to, what we are blessed for, what we are congratulated for, and live into those congratulations and blessings. And then in turn, we will be blessings to those around us. Amen. Please rise and bow to your spirit of joy.